Thank you very much. Thank you, Giancarlo, for the invitation and for your book. I will pick up on some of the themes today's has pointed to, but especially from the point of view of the epistemology of being European and especially of being European elite. And so this is not going to be a group hug, don't worry, but let's start with a confession. I am part of the European liberal elite. So is Teresa, so is Giancarlo, and so, frankly, are all of you, probably. I'm not particularly ashamed of it. I'm not suggesting you should be ashamed of it. But there you have it. We are, most of us, I suppose, well-educated, relatively well-off. We have probably lived and loved and worked and studied in different member states. We are the sons and daughters of free movement, of Erasmus programs, of privilege, and of opportunity. And by and large, we know better. We know that European integration is a good thing, and we know that populist politics and rising nationalism are terrible, awful things. The problem is, of course, that these are not good times to be a part of the elite, politically at least. And frankly, these are not good times to know better. For one thing, we, and this is where we are humble, should recognize that we are now part of the problem. At least we are not in an obviously good position to offer solutions to the problems afflicting European integration. I had this problem when Brexit happened, and I am a Dutch academic teaching EU law in a British university, and I was as shocked as most of you were. Probably the idiocy of the referendum, the pettiness of the campaign, the mendacity of the arguments used, it was all very wrong. And so I was asked to contribute to the post-Brexit debate, and I sat in front of a blank piece of paper for a very long time, and I could not put a single word on it. What would another EU liberal legal academic have to contribute to the problems caused by liberal elitist academics? So here's the thing, we may know the truth, but frankly nobody cares anymore, and maybe if nobody cares we should interrogate our holdings of the truth. If anyone can know better without coming off as someone who always knows better, then it is Giancarlo. He writes with charm and lightness of touch, and his faith is true faith, not of cold calculation, but of warm-blooded passion. Giancarlo is a true believer, a real European, but even he will concede that his European identity is a different European identity from the single mom on the council estate in Sheffield or from the pensioner in Saloniki. They blame Europe for their problems, and we know that they are wrong, which is a problem. Giancarlo writes a familiar story, and in some ways the story is obviously right. The Union has limited competencies and gets blamed for it can do nothing about. True. The Union is what member states allow it to be, not more, and certainly not less. True. The Union tries hard, muddles through, and sometimes gets things right. We might differ on the diagnosis of European action in the economic crisis, which in the blur on the book is referred to as the epitome of solidarity and something else. We might differ on that one, but for the rest, fine. I suggest a complementary narrative, one that is at once more optimistic, but also more depressing in the end. European integration has happened by stealth, to use Gian Domenico Maione's phrase. But this was by design and not by accident. Neo-functionalism and the Jean Monnet method have always been about not having political debates. It has always been about finding superior solutions to common problems. It has always been about being right. And what is more, that method of integration depends on domestic, political, and social spaces, not just for its own legitimacy, but for the very success of the process. In political economy terms, gains from market integration are huge, but they are hugely unevenly spread. And so, every trade lawyer knows, for societies to benefit from open markets, they need strong states capable of redistribution and capable of risk mitigation. And with hindsight, it is probably true that the moment European integration ran into trouble was the moment it became a victim of its own success. That is, there was a moment that European integration itself started to be perceived as eroding the very capacity of national social and political spaces that underpinned its very process. This has not been helped by the rise of the executive. The EU is living its own Schmittian moment, and this is not a good idea for the democratic legitimacy of the Union. Sometimes at the expense of the Parliament, sometimes at the expense of the Commission, but mostly and most tragically at the expense of EU law itself and of the treaty. So to conclude, the telos of European integration was always right. Right in the sense of being beyond reasonable political debate. And maybe that's what we should try and stop doing. We should try and stop being right and start disagreeing a little more. Maybe European integration should become the very heart of political debate. All the values that Giancarlo defends are the values that I would defend, but probably we should be willing to defend them not as moral truth, but as social and political choices. Beyond contestation lie truth and apathy, and after a while we don't know the difference between the two. If we want widespread political ownership of the project of European integration, we should be willing not just to fight for it, but to be fought over what it means and how it affects all our lives. Thank you very much.